Hi, beautiful people of the world. Back on the beach, and think I'll be doing a few videos this week. Today, I want to talk about the concept of death and dying. And to talk about death, we need to talk about life. So, let's talk about what happens. What is life? Why are we here? Well, as I mentioned before, I do believe, and again, before I say anything else, this is not my opinion, these are my beliefs. My beliefs are based on my studies, my personal meditations, my understanding and my experience over the last 44 years of my life. Does that mean it's true? Absolutely not. Should you believe everything I say? Should you believe anything I say? No, please don't. Like I've said before, go research it, study, meditate. This might or might not resonate with you. The intention here with this and everything that I do and I put out in the world is to be of service, is to help share the little that I've understood, and with the hope that this brings you some solace and some light and understanding of this concept, and hopefully inspires you to then go and research and learn more. So I do believe that we are souls having a human experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience in this life. I do believe that I've been here hundreds of times before since the beginning of life. My soul has evolved and been through many different life cycles. I actually happen to be aware of a few of them. Could I be wrong? Absolutely. But it works for me. And who is anyone to tell me what works for me and what's not? Just like who am I to tell you what's right for you and what's not? But this is, in this lifetime, I'm in this body, and at some point I will die. It could be the minute I finish this video. It could be 50 years from now. Who knows? For me, it's irrelevant. I'm just grateful that I'm alive because I love being in the body, because I get to enjoy such incredible things that are only available to me to experience in the body. Like, I love the feel of sunlight, just stepping out. I don't even have to be at the beach. Of course, it's a beautiful day at the beach, but I don't have to be at the beach. I just love being able to step out of the building, my office, hospital, wherever I am, and just closing my eyes and staring up at the sky and letting the sun just absorb. Just, driving my car and putting down the windows and letting, you know, the wind sort of blow in my face. It's such a beautiful feeling. Of course, the sweetness of enjoying, chocolates and all kinds of other things. So I love being alive, but I also know that at some point I will die. And so this is what, and we all die. Anything that lives dies. It is what it is. What is the point of being afraid of it? Well, we're afraid of it, but we're afraid of things we don't understand, right? So my understanding of it is this is what happens when we die. When we have several checkout points in this life that are sort of, predetermined by us, and we decide whether we want to walk through or not. Our soul decides at that point. So the point that I decide I'm going to die, what happens? So I believe that my soul leaves the body and basically travels upwards and is greeted by my spirit guides, my loved ones who have already passed away, and they're all there to sort of welcome me, to make sure I understand, the shock of being dead. For many souls, that's what supposedly happens. Now, how do I know this? Let me recommend some books before we go any further. There's a wonderful book called Many Lives, Many Masters by Dr. Brian Weiss that talks about the concept of reincarnation and past lives and whatnot. There's Home with God from Neale Donald Walsch. There's also the most recent one is Proof of Heaven by Dr. Eben Alexander. I can talk about all of these books literally for like an hour long each. But I'll just mention quickly Proof of Heaven by Dr. Eben Alexander. Now, this is a neurosurgeon, I believe, that did not believe in God, was sort of an atheist, was mad at God, was, adopted and angry and didn't believe in the higher power, very successful, very scientific man. And one night he went to bed but woke up with some kind of viral bacterial something, which basically overnight his wife called 911, was taken into the hospital, his entire body shut down. They basically said he's going to be dead, and he was dead. And there was all kinds of studies because he was the head of whatever department in the hospital he worked at. And long story short, he did live, came back, and weeks later was then going through all the medical reports and remembering what he had experienced, and realized that what he had experienced was not possible for him to experience, given that certain parts of his brain had shut down, because he was a man of science, and because he had heard these stories before from patients, that they'd seen the light and they'd seen the tunnel and they'd seen the visions and heard the music and whatnot. He didn't believe it because he thought, oh, that's nice, it's just this part of the brain firing these neurons and this is producing this. But when it happened to himself, and then he went back and he's looked at what was going on in his brain, because there were reports to document that, he then wrote the book Proof of Heaven, and very beautifully explained stuff. So read that. That's a great book. And again, there's any of the major faiths. There's all kinds of information in there that one can learn from. So what happens when we die? So the soul leaves the body. Spirit guides are waiting. They take us literally up into the heavens. The light sort of opens up. Not sure if you've ever seen, what is that? Ghost Whisperers. I think Ghost Whisperers is a cool show, and it kind of shows, or even the movie Ghost does that, where, the heavens open up and you see like this beam of light coming down, and, it's a beautiful sort of way of explaining what happens, and your soul rises, and then it's greeted by, and again, I might not have this exactly right, but who does? But it's greeted by your spirit guides and your loved ones, and then there's a tunnel. There's always a tunnel that, NDEs, near that experienced patients, talk about. Again, another slew of books, and I can't remember many right now, but I've been reading those for about 20 some years now. But there's a walk in the tunnel, there's light at the end of the tunnel, and then you basically, there's a period where there's a rest period, so your soul just gets to rest. And then when you're ready, there's a life review period. So you, with your guardian angel or with your spirit guides, your masters, you literally, it's like watching a video of your life. But at that level, when you're on that plane, you have all the awareness that you need to have from every lifetime. So you're looking at this behavior of yours from a very different perspective, going, wow, I can't believe I did that. I can't believe I was selfish or obnoxious, or I was hurt. I can't believe I took that the wrong way. Or even, I'm glad I did the right thing. And based on that life review, we, make some sort of agreements of what worked, what didn't work, and what we want to work on possibly the next time we decide to come down. Then there's more rest period if we want to, where we can rest and our soul can meditate and reflect. Or we may decide to go to work. There is work up on that level. There are many different levels up there. And the souls depends on which level they're at, and whether they're masters or they're, just depends on which level the soul's at. They may decide to come back to the lower levels, or even be born on earth, to come back and help other ones, or just come back in the form of spirits. And angels, that you encounter, that just a stranger that, sort of comes and helps you out and then disappears. I'm thinking about, my friend Preeti, who put a beautiful, shared a beautiful sort of her experience at the airport with this woman who was there with her, and she completely connected with her and ended up, sharing something, said a quote that an affirmation that Preeti's been meditating on, and and then just disappeared in the airport, never to be found again. Like, what is that about? Well, that's an angel. Absolutely. I believe you. And Preeti, thank you for having the courage to share that. I think that is beautiful that you did that. And I'm so grateful that you did that. Anyway, so if we decide, that we want to come back, then we start to sit and figure out who we're going to come back with and what our soul agreements are and what lessons we want to work on. And then we come back. Time. So I was having this discussion over the weekend with someone, and someone said, well, how does that work? If you say that, we pick our soul families, but, they come in, years before us, and how does that work? Well, the concept of time, you're assuming, is linear on Earth, but it's not really linear. The concept of time is cyclical. That's one concept where everything is happening at the same time. So past, present, future is all happening at the same time. That's one concept. The other concept is that time, a lifetime on that plane is just a minute or a second. It's just nothing. So sure, might be 30 years before your parents decide to have you and you're born, but it's nothing. It's just a blink of an eye over there. So that answers that question. So yes, when our loved ones die, yes, we are sad. Absolutely. We miss them. Every right to miss them, but it's also just the physical body's gone. They're not really gone, and they've moved on, and they're in a better place. I mean, they literally are in a better place. I know we hear these little, cute things that people say that can be really frustrating, especially at funerals, and God doesn't give you anything that more than you want to handle, and they're in a better place, and crying hurts their souls, and blah blah blah, and with all your good intentions, when you go to a funeral, when you're trying to console someone has lost someone, let's try not to give these little classic traditional statements with all your good intentions, because I don't think it really helps a whole lot. I mean, I'm sure it helps, but not when you've got 40, 50 people telling you the same darn thing. Instead, offer them prayers, offer them your support to be here if they want to talk about, them missing your loved ones. Pray for them. A lot of times, we tend to be so uncomfortable with death and someone dying that we don't even know how to approach the family members, and especially if it's a death that was not, natural. Like if it's an old person that dies and had a good life, fine, no issues. But if it's someone young that dies, or someone that commits suicide, or someone that, just was killed, it becomes so awkward for us to talk about that. But, it's okay. That's normal that it's awkward. But again, just pray about it, meditate about it. And at the end of the day, again, your intention is what drives everything, correct? So if my intention when I'm approaching this family is to bring them peace and love, then beautiful. If my intention is just to make sure I've done my duties and checking in so they know that I paid my respect, then that is not really cool, right? And I think a lot of us do that without even realizing, I've got to go check in with them, So our loved ones are always around. They're always available. We want them to go into the light, because once they go into the light and they cross over, then they're free to come back anytime, no issues. If they don't cross into the light and they stick around here, that's a problem. So let's talk about that. Those are wayward spirits. There's two different kinds of, there's many different kinds of spirits, but there's wayward spirits are spirits that basically someone dies and they decide not to go into the light. Why does someone decide not to go into the light? Well, they might decide not to go into the light because they're afraid of death. They're afraid of whatever they've been told. That's one reason. So they're not sure what's out there. Second might be they have attachments, come, my son just came in. But they have attachments about, they're attached to material things. They're attached to, I'm talking about death and dying, so kind of a heavy subject. So have a seat.
Let me see.
So they might have attachments to a loved one. A parent might not want to leave their loved one, because they feel they need to be around, or they might be attached to their material possessions, and they might not want to leave that, or they might be angry and they might want to stick around to take revenge. Whatever the reason is, when a loved one decides not to go into the light, that light will close. That channel closes at one point, and then there's nothing but darkness. So if you the soul doesn't have, the spirit doesn't have the body to give them energy, and it has not got into the light, then it's basically lost. So then what happens? Well, it starts to look for a host, looks for energy. We are the host. So there's energies all around us. Spirits are all around us. Do we be afraid of them? No, absolutely not. Do they attach themselves to us? All the time. All the time. How do you solve that? Well, imagine surrounding yourself with God's light, white light, and let it go into, imagine just letting that energy, letting any attachments, any heaviness, any darkness, any tightness that you might feel within your body, imagine it leaving and going just into the white light. And your imagination is powerful. Are you making it up? Sure. But you know what? That's how the angels talk to us. That's how God talks to us, is through our thoughts, through our emotions. That's intuition. That's psychic. We're all psychic. Each and every one of us is psychic. The term psychic has such a negative connotation, but we're all psychic. But that's just intuition. We all have it. It's just how much of that do you listen to? How much of that do you follow through with? How much of that do you honor? And like any muscle in your body, your spiritual, psychic, intuitive abilities are just that. The more you listen to them, the more you practice and start to follow through, the louder it will get. So nothing to be afraid of. Just embrace that, because we've all been gifted with that. So the last thing I want to say is there's an amazing movie called What Dreams May Come, with Robin Williams, and I think it does an incredible job of explaining a lot of this stuff. Beautiful. I can't tell you how many times I've seen that movie, 30 plus at least, and yet every time I watch that movie, it's just I get something different from it. I hope this has been helpful. Let me just review my notes to make sure I'm not forgetting anything. Okay, last thing I'm going to say is, yes, it's one cycle, one life ending. It is sad, but it's actually a continuation day and a celebration day, according to Neale Donald Walsch. So, if I die, not if I die, of course I'm going to die. When I die, the instructions are to have a party, to pass out my favorite chocolate, to listen to favorite music, and celebrate, because I will be around. I'm not going anywhere, just like, and my kids know that. And yes, I am the weirdo that talks about this stuff, quite openly to my kids, and it is what it is. Anyways, wishing you all love and light, and hope to hear from you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.